Okay guys, this is the Verdant Tinkerer again. This time we're going to talk about different fencing options. You have your typical fences like your chain link, your vinyl fence or your picket fence or whatever. And those work, but I'm going to talk about some cheaper options, especially for like gardens where they don't need to be too high. This year for my garden I tried experimenting. As you can see, it's kind of a mess. We got over here, it's basically a brush fence. You control the thickness and the height by pounding stakes in the ground, and this is especially good if you're like clearing out an area where you might have a lot of twigs or brush or whatever. You just kind of pile it together, pack it in nice and tight so nothing can get through. It's pretty tight. We got some plants growing around. Another option, unless you know a farmer or grow your own hay, you're gonna have to buy hay bales. But you can stack hay bales. Some people like hay bale gardening, where you can grow plants straight in the hay. But what I did here was I just stacked them up. These are actually from last fall. What I did is I piled these up against the back of the house where that little garden area is, as a miniature greenhouse to protect some of my more sensitive plants. It helped keep them insulated from the worst of the cold. So they're decomposing pretty well, which is why they're starting to fall over. And this fall I'm just going to spread it out in the garden after I clean out all the dead plants, and that should help. Most common option is recycling pallets. It's become kind of a new popular cool thing, finding new uses for pallets. There's stuff all over Pinterest and YouTube and whatnot. So that's what this is. They're different heights because this one longer pallet I found here had those gaps, so I took apart another pallet, which is where the longer pieces came from, to fill in the gaps to try and keep out the dogs and any smaller creatures, although at that height it'd be easier for them to get over. Then over here is kind of a hybrid between the pallet fence and it's called a wattle fence. It's basically a weave of branches. This particular one, I wove it through a pallet because it'll make it mobile, easier for me to move. Normally, kind of like the brush fence, you pound stakes into the ground and you just weave them really tight. And it actually, if you use the right kind of material, the right kind of wood that doesn't rot over a year or two, it's very sturdy, very strong, and it'll last a long time. And if you do it right, it actually can look pretty nice. Moving on from gardens, you could do a hedge. That's what I kind of mentioned in an earlier video. This really is the best option, but it's only affordable if you have the time to invest, usually a couple years. So I started this last fall, and I have this welded wire fence with the T-posts in temporarily, because when you start, you wind up with this kind of spacing. On the left is a rose, on the right is a Siberian pea shrub. They're at about 2.5 foot spacing. They were year-old plants, and they were anywhere from $1 to $2 a piece. So this area right here, which also goes into observation skills, which is very important in any kind of holistic property management. It's between the two properties, two houses, so it doesn't get a lot of sunlight. So these two haven't seen much growth, whereas in just a year, you can already see over here, the roses have really taken off. There's a lot of coverage in there. There's still some gaps, but it's only a year old. So by 3 years, 4 years, this should be pretty much impenetrable to the dogs. And I can take this fence down and use it somewhere else. And the good thing about most shrubs, but especially the rose, as you can see, These green shoots here, they all came up this year, so they're what's called suckers. New plants come up from the root bundle, and they just spread out instead of growing up like a new plant or an existing plant. So what I'll do this fall, after they go dormant and all the leaves come off, I'll dig up these suckers, these new guys that started this year, and I'll plant them over here where we're not getting that much growth. That way the extra growth we're getting over there we'll use to fill in holes here. That way we can kind of balance it out at the end of each year. There are plenty of other options, but those are really the only fences I have here, so that's all I'm going to talk about at this time. Give me some comments. Let me know what you think, what you'd like to see. If you have any questions that my video raised that I didn't really answer, and let me know. Thanks.